So it's been a while since we've made a video. Lots happened since we last made our last videos and our introductions to who we are, and we would like to share with you what's happened in the past month or so since we've recorded. We decided that we were going to talk about loss. Unfortunately, myself, I don't know about you, but we've dealt with some people in our lives who we've lost recently and how that affects everything in our lives. Letting go of someone, whether it's because they've passed away and it was their time, or having to disconnect from them because of circumstances, addiction, or that your time with them has just ended and you're on your next adventure. I've lost two friends of mine that I've known for a number of years, one due to alcoholism and another friend who was addicted to drugs for as long as I can remember.
And that really hits home because I've lost people close to me in my life, not for reasons of addiction, but with my child's father, I've had to go through a grieving process, even though he's still alive and he's still out there, setting boundaries and kind of cutting him out of my life. I've had to go through a grieving process, kind of similar to how you would go through with losing people that were close to you or close to your family. It's not hard, or it's not easy, it's hard. And especially knowing that he's still out there, it's kind of extra tricky because I'm choosing to grieve him in a way. So the whole process is like is similar to losing a friend or a family member. So talk about how it's been for you for the past month.
Well, life gets really busy when we grow up and we become adults. We have work, school, kids. We don't always get to see our friends or the people that we love as much as that we want to. And when I separated from the father of my children, I had to separate myself from a lot of people in my life. Not necessarily because they didn't matter, but because life became really, really busy. So a friend of mine, that when I separated with him, I remember her, she suffered from addiction, but she had a beautiful heart. And she was a person that I would call and be like, oh no, like I'm having a bad day, like I don't have money for diapers, like things are getting a little crazy. Unfortunately, a lot of people who have addiction and their ways of providing for their addiction, they get lost in crime. They have to steal to support their habit. They steal from family, they steal from friends. They kind of like separate themselves from humanity in a sort of way that their behaviors are kind of completely out of character. And whether it's the drugs that change them or they just change so much. So this woman used to steal a lot, and that's how she fed her addiction. And I remember I'd be talking on the phone, and then all of a sudden there'd be a knock on the door, and she'd be like, oh, I got diapers for you. And I'd be like, oh dear Lord, do I take these diapers? Knowing that she's most likely not bought these diapers for me because she didn't have means to be able to do that. But she still had compassion, she still had love, she loved my kids, but she suffered from she used heroin and meth, whatever she can get her hands on. But for as long as I can remember, she was addicted to heroin. And with heroin, they get sick if they don't use. If they don't have methadone, they're going to get really sick if they don't get their fix. So she was forced to steal to be able to get her fix. And I remember watching her, my first experience with drugs, and I was just, I think 13 years old, and I went to sleep over at my friend's house, and I didn't know anything about drugs. remember being around drugs, and I was sleeping, and I saw someone on the couch shaking, and like, was so scared. I woke up, and what the hell's going on? I remember poking my friend and being like, what the hell? What's going on? What's going on? Like, and she, don't worry, they're just going through withdrawal. And I didn't really get it. But I built a relationship with this person. And I started to understand that if they didn't get their fixes and they were addicted, that they'd get sick, they'd throw up, they'd get body aches, the sweats. It was really like having a really, really bad flu. This woman, over the years, she had the most beautiful heart. She loved her family. She loved my kids. But she was a user. So she had been, oh my God, I guess 20 years or so that I've known her, and I hadn't seen her for a few years, and I went to go visit her daughter, and we went by her house, and I got to see her about 2 weeks or so, maybe a couple, 3 weeks possibly, before she passed away. And she was happy. She's like, I'm not using heroin anymore, like I'm doing good, her house is beautiful, like she looked so happy. She was always full of life. But she had, I guess, started using other drugs in replacement of the heroin. And I received a phone call saying that she had overdosed on Christmas. I was so taken back by it. I always knew that addiction kills people. And I understand that every day when we have someone who's in our lives who are using drugs, that we have a chance of losing those people. And those people also know that. But when she passed away, I couldn't really find the proper balance. Was it to be like, hey, she's off to a better place now, she's not trapped by this addiction, like she's, you know, she's her time, like her time's up, like we're talking 20 years that I've known her, and she's been using for a lot more years than that, trapped in this disease, if it's a disease or what it is. And I remember going to her funeral. It was my first funeral for addiction for a while, losing someone I loved to it, and hearing her kids and everyone talk about her, and felt blessed that I had the chance to see her again, because it'd been many years, and running all those memories of her knocking on my door. And you know, the day that I went to go see her, I was with my daughter, and she was in the car, and she loved my daughter so much. She'd always come with toys or dolls, and she always thought about her. She always had little toys and trinkets for her. Yeah, so she was my first loss that I had that month. And drugs, I'm right now, like I said before in the last video, like I mentioned to you, like I always go up and down. I never thought that my mom was never a drinker, she never used drugs. I didn't grow up in a home around drugs. But drugs have become a huge part of my life. Addiction has become a huge thing in my story. And every day I worry about getting that phone call from my friend, the father of my kids, of news that I know will leave a gaping hole in my heart. And the whole funeral, I'm sitting there listening to all these kids talk about their mother, and family members talk about the mother, and remembering her, and it hit too close to home for me. It was really scary.